Did you know Higher Ed's premier tech conference, Ellucian Live, is almost here? Join industry leaders in New Orleans, March 26th through 29th. Discover insights and game-changing solutions to unlock possibility and drive student success. Register at elive.ellucian.com.
Epic.
3 higher ed authors, 100 plus college and university presidents, dozens of actionable insights for academic leaders. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, is now available on Amazon. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Sallustio back with you on another episode. And if you did not know, well, now you're going to know, because I'm going to tell you. Elvin and I, of course, Elvin Freites, always, what do I say about Elvin? He's always behind the scenes, but not often seen. We're going to bring him out from behind the curtain when we attend Ellucian Live. It is in New Orleans. It's called eLive by Ellucian. It's in New Orleans, the March 24th through 27th, something like that. We're going to be podcasting live. Come be part of the conversation. We always have a hot mic for anybody that wants to sit down. You can co-host with me if you're listening to this podcast. You can co-host with me anytime you want. I'm not talking just to you college presidents or provosts or high-level folks. I'm talking to the ones like doing the real work of, not that they don't, but you know what I mean. I'm getting tongue-tied a little bit, but that's what I do here on EdUp. I'm talking about those serving students, student services, enrollment, and you thought, I want to get on a microphone and I want to co-host with Joe because he's not really that good anyway, and I could probably show him up. Come co-host with me. We'll interview a college president together. That's not really a great way to set up my co-host today. That my co-host today has done a lot of these, so he needs no introduction. Depending on what part of the country you're from, his last name is Markowitz, or if you're from New York, it's Malkowitz. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's Elliot Malkowitz. He is editor-in-chief and head of content at Fierce Education. Elliot, what's going on?
Oh, thank you for having me here, Joe. It's a pleasure, and I will go back and forth between my higher education accent and Long Island accent, depending on the subject matter.
Yeah, well, let's hear your last name in the way that most people would say it. You say it that way, though.
I say it Markowitz.
Yeah, see, Malkowitz and Markowitz, it depends on where you're from. Either way, Ellie, you know what's going on in higher education at Fierce Education. You guys obviously are continuing to grow.
Yep.
Great partners of the EdUp Experience, putting out amazing content. And this is the first time you've been here on a podcast episode with me, so you better be ready.
Always am.
Oh, I like it. I like that you're short and succinct. It allows me to put in more buttons, sound effects for you when you talk. And just
I'm going to set you up here, Joe. Come on.
Are you going to help me now or not?
All right, Elliot, we're going to have to bring you in. But we have an amazing guest today. We want to get right to it. She is doing incredible work. Here she is, and she's got the long title to go along with the long responsibility she has. She's Kim Majera. She's Vice President for Global Education, U.S. State and Local Government at Amazon Web Services. Kim, did I get that right?
You got it right. And first, a big thank you. I'm looking forward to the conversation, but maybe we should talk about, well, who has the better pizza? I'm out of Chicago. So you really got to, I mean, we might have a different opportunity to debate that.
Well, I think we'd have to go on video for that. And I think we need more than 40 minutes.
I would think so.
I feel like there is absolutely no resolution to that conversation here. But I do want to hear again, Kim, did I get your title right?
You did get my title right. I have such an amazing privilege to support global education, U.S. state, local, and education. So it's an honor to be a part of the podcast. So thanks for having me. But most importantly, thanks to all those who listen. The audience has such a big responsibility to help train and educate and make a difference for not just the now learners, the lifelong learners, and the next generation of learners. So thank you for having me.
You're so well spoken. I was simply looking for a yes or no so I could hit my button, and so I'm going to say I got your title right.
I am the smartest man alive!
There we go. That's. I was just trying to get that in. No, I really appreciate what you said, and I want you to level set for us. Talk about your role. What is... For anyone that hasn't heard of Amazon or Amazon Web Services, what is it? What is Amazon Web Services? What do you do? How do you do it? And talk about your role and your oversight and your impact.
Sure. And a great call out on the Ellucian event happening in March. We consider Ellucian one of our partners in this market space. They're what we consider an ed tech. But just pulling it up a little bit. So AWS, Amazon Web Services, it really shapes our world and defines where we could go in the future. That's really what our mission is. We support education leaders and customers across not just higher ed, but also K through 12, and also those education technology companies like an Ellucian, for example, and many of the learning companies that actually serve the mission of education. We help them include building an efficient, cost-effective, secure environments that really is at the core task at hand, and that is to improve learning, research, supporting academic medicine, and really all the operations that go with it. So when we think about, when I think about my responsibility and my team's remit, I have the traditional institutional responsibility of our government education, our higher ed education, but I also get just an amazing privilege to see the amazing innovations that those ed techs are making to support. So that's my remit within the organization. I partner across Amazon to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support the institutions as they go through probably one of the biggest transformations we've seen since COVID and just the transition that happened there. So we're busy. We're super busy, but we love everything that we do.
Well, I want to jump right in before I pass it to Elliot, and I'm going to ask you what I think is one of the most important questions that I know you're thinking about all the time, and that is this skills gap. That is this battle for talent. It is cloud computing and now AI and the innovations that technology is bringing, and how we don't have enough of a skilled workforce to fill the jobs. And I know cloud computing, I think, is one of the call outs where there's just not enough people to do it, and it won't be for like 10 years or some ridiculous thing like that. I know Amazon is doing a ton of work, Amazon Web Services, to help fill the skills gap by supporting organizations and institutions. How central is this to your work and the work being done in Amazon Web Services?
Well, I mean, it's the World Economic Forum actually came out with a report several years ago that said by 2025, 50% of the workforce has to be upskilled and reskilled. And that is an important point. And here we are, 2023, and we still have a long way to go. But yeah, exactly. So I think I'd like to call out my team, my Skills to Jobs team. The important part that we are committed to is to train 29 million people around the world and we provide them with access to free cloud computing skills. Those courses are available, and their mission is to help close that gap. So it's really about the certification, the skill in order to transition. The workforce of today is one piece of it, but it's the workforce of the future. And that's really the work of one of my teams that work with institutions to help them incorporate cloud-based training skills within their curriculum. And as we know, that's a difficult thing to do. And we have to go faster. So we bring leaders around the world with that common goal, and we try to simplify their processes for the institution and literally integrate AWS education programs, whether it's community colleges or universities. It's really just about modernizing their tech curriculum so that they are equipped and ready to go to help them with their certifications. Many states, we have done several statewide initiatives where we partner with the governor's office and the community colleges and the non-for-profits within that state to help identify and transition those lifelong learners into new opportunities.
Before, just very, very quickly, you so nicely said that, and you said something like, as we know, that's hard to do. And then you think, if you're in the inside of higher education, updating curriculum, getting curriculum review, getting an institution to embed something like this, like cloud computing, into curriculum, getting through the committees, getting it approved. It is not easy. And that is one of the things that has hindered higher education, is the slowness that happens. sometimes, and how we are not necessarily always responsive to the speed at which business and industry moves, Elliot. And I tell you that you and I talk about this all the time, and we've been on talks together where we talk about speed a lot. And I've written articles for Fierce about speed, and it's like, how do we bring higher ed along? And Elliot, you did ask me how you're going to know it's your turn to ask questions.
Now it's your turn.
So there you go.
Well, that's as subtle as a heart attack, Joe, but thank you very much. Kim, I couldn't agree with you more. It's interesting, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. When COVID first came, we saw a lot of colleges and universities, we saw a knee-jerk reaction. But I really see you and your organization really at the core, the epicenter of where higher education is and where it's going, because we saw a lot of colleges and universities have the ability for, backup and maybe recovery of their information, but they didn't have any business continuity plans, which is where cloud computing really puts both together. You have your backup, you have your accessibility, but then you have your business continuity. Can you explain how you really communicate that message and work with universities on that whole 360-degree view of cloud?
You know what? Continuity is important, but scalability is really the important point. You really have to think about, and I think about what LA Unified School District was required to do, literally from one day being in school to literally overnight having to transition close to 800,000 students online. And it wasn't just the students, it was the teachers, the staff, and the supporting services that go with it. So when we think about the opportunity for any school, no matter where you're at, challenges happen, but overnight they were able to scale instantaneously. That wasn't necessarily the case for everybody in the US, but that's really what we were able to support institutions, whether they were higher ed or whether they were K through 12, literally overnight having the elasticity of the cloud to actually train those students, to keep that education flowing, to keep the opportunity in that learner to continue. It was amazing that it's amazing what the schools actually had to move very quickly, and a big call out to the IT teams across the US who support education. It might have been the janitor, or it might have been the massive IT staff at some of these universities. They knew how to do it. They quickly were able to transition to the right tools, the right ed techs, and the right productivity capabilities. And we supported them through the elasticity of AWS Cloud. So I've never been so amazed. Joe, I think you said sometimes they move very slow. We should be calling them out on how quickly they transitioned to continuing educating across the globe.
Nailed it.
Joe, permission to ask a follow-up question.
Permission granted. I actually had an access denied button, but I'm not going to use it this time. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that one. So Kim, I'm curious about your thoughts on this. We saw the blended learning environment and hybrid learning environment, however you want to describe it, specifically in higher education, accelerate, because of COVID. And some institutions really took a step backwards when things kind of got back to normal. With AWS and your cloud services, you really do support the future of hybrid and blended learning. So what's your stance on that moving forward in higher education?
Well, I don't think it's ever going away. I think we unleashed the opportunity of education being anywhere at any time, any device, any program. So I think we all have to take a moment, and it's a little bit of a self-reflection that I've done for myself, being a lifelong learner, but really I see within my own kids is they all learn differently. And I think that's the most important part that we should, COVID was a horrible time in our history, but we recognize and identify that people learn differently. And if we don't provide them with the variations of what works best for them and be more personalized in how they actually learn, that holds us back. Let me give you an example. Maryville University in St. Louis, Missouri, they wanted to really get to that highly personalized education for each student, especially for those learners who were having a difficult time completing in the first semester of the semester. So what they actually did is they leveraged their two primary data systems, the student information system and their learning management system. They created a data lake on AWS, which actually allowed the two systems to communicate information between them. They built an architecture that actually allowed them to take that sensitive data, assess understand where the student was at, and then they were able to literally engage that student based on what they were seeing by ways of results. So when you think about a student, wherever they're at in their learning journey, if they're hybrid or if they're in class and they're using still some online skills and assessments, the university was able to take that data and more or less provide the professors or the instructors or the educators with targets of, hey, Joe might be having a little bit of an issue here. You may want to engage him with additional content. That personalized opportunity, that's really where I see this going. And that's really the difference that technology could make. Make no mistake, educators are the most important part of learning, but we need to equip them with the skills and the tools that they could use to continue to improve their outcomes for students themselves. So a little bit of a long-winded answer, but we're seeing universities do this. We see the opportunity with customized learning that is changing, but it's really the generations that are changing. The way my kids learn is very, very different than when I learned, or maybe any of us on the call have learned.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention? It's time for us to solve the puzzle of success in higher education. Get your ticket to Ellucian Live for industry insights, powerful connections, and innovative solutions. From March 26th through 29th, join peers from around the world in New Orleans to unlock the possibility and drive student and institutional success. Learn more and register at elive.ellucian.com. You know that the world of higher education is experiencing evolutions and revolutions. You want to be part of the progress. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education with insights from more than 100 college and university presidents, will show you how. Get your copy of Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education now on Amazon right away. We think you're going to love it. It's
amazing.
I'm going to toss it back to Joe, but I do want to comment that, student engagement is probably the number one issue when we speak to other faculty and we speak to, the provosts and the presidents and heads of department. But the example you just cited, the technology that's being incorporated gives you the opportunity to engage even more and personally with the student. But it takes work on the faculty side and they need to be trained. And with that, I'll toss it back to Joe.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask another question.
Access denied.
I had the button ready this time. Kim, I'm going to ask you what you think about something that I know has got to be coming up in conversation. What do you think about this?
Artificial intelligence.
How does that relate to your work?
Every day. And it's, again, you talk about innovation. The best part is we're all professors of the challenge that we have, but technology is really helping them. When I think about ML, data analytics, and improving those student outcomes and support educators, ML gives a significant new capability of insight. It does improve, but you have to understand it, you have to nurture it, and you have to communicate differently. So when, again, using the Maryville example, they were using AI/ML to actually say, hey, what can we be doing differently? But, Elliot, you hit on it a little bit. Think about the siloed systems and the siloed data. Mm-hmm. Without the ability to pull and access that data to leverage artificial intelligence, machine learning, scripts and capabilities, that really is what's holding us back, is those silos. So breaking through the silos, providing an opportunity to make sure that they can access it, query it, and improve it through data analytics and machine learning, that's the difference. So we have to get there, but in order to get there, you have to understand what you have by ways of student. But the student engagement comes in different ways. Think about all the alumni that are out in the working world today. How should a university or how should lifelong learning continue? Because it's not a one and done. Higher ed is not a one and done, see you later, thank you, I appreciate, I've got my logo wear. What it really has changed to, we want to continue to engage our alumni or students who want to continue on that journey, because the market's changing, jobs are changing, technology is continuing to challenge them. Well, with the tools, that are available once you understand the data that you have, you could actually engage those students longer and say, hey, I've seen you've had a job transition. I've seen you had an opportunity to move organizations. Here are additional learning opportunities that you have from your alma mater. It's great to see that the universities are seeing that, and they're actually seeing their responsibility greater than just the 4 years that it typically takes a kid to get a higher education degree.
So if I can follow up with that, if you don't mind, what would you say to those faculty members who say, listen, I'm a subject matter expert. I'm not a technologist. I don't understand social media. This is too much work for me. How would you encourage them, or how would you even work with them?
So what we do is we work back from we have a working backwards process that we're so proud of at Amazon. Understanding the problem set that they're trying to solve for really takes the technology out of it. It really focuses on what are you trying to accomplish and how do we help you get there. Technology is the easy part. We just need them to articulate where they're coming from. Each one of the learning opportunities and each one of the professors and or schools have a vision to where they want to go. What we do is we ask them to let us be a part of that journey. Let us help them understand the art of what's possible, and then help them execute by leveraging what they have today by ways of assets, pulling it into the data lakes, showing them how they could pull that data. We're not asking them to be, we provide the opportunity of the technology skills, and their staff has those skills as well. We just need the faculty to see that it's possible. So we work slowly through the universities and identify them as opportunities for them to change and to use technology differently.
Kim, you hit on something that resonates with me really at a high level, and that's the personalized learning, and you guys were talking about it. And connecting that to, I don't know, personalized learning, technology, AI, and as we move forward, and then you said something that I know a lot of us can relate to, and that's the 4-letter word called kids. And you think about, how do kids learn today, and how are they going to learn 10 years from now? If you got an 8 to 10-year-old and in 5-7 years, that kid may go off to college, and there's this debate on what is learning. Is a college degree as useful as it used to be? What skills-based learning, is it both? Is it either or? How do you navigate through all the options? But one thing that kind of is the umbrella over all that is this personalization part of learning. If you've got kids, they might go to school, and when they come home, if they're old enough and they're picking up a device, they're learning on YouTube, and they're learning on TikTok. They're learning dances. They're learning life hacks. They're learning how to hammer a nail into a piece of wood at an angle because they're watching somebody on YouTube or TikTok do it. They're learning about I don't know, all sorts of these other skills. How do we communicate this personalized learning, because it is so decentralized? And we are trying to centralize it to say, hey, look, here's a personalized learning journey, but there's 50 different ways you can learn now, 500 different ways. How does a student even understand that? How do universities, how do we as parents understand what the future of learning looks like?
Well, I'll call out a great example, Wharton Interactive. So one of our AWS education champions from Wharton Interactive, they are doing some pioneering and innovative approaches to education through new forms of really immersive game-based learning. So you have to bring them to platforms that actually interact to help bring them through the pathways that they're looking for. They're on a mission to radically transform and democratize education by enabling those learners and educators to engage in the curriculum in fundamentally more meaningful ways. Their alternative reality courses are amazing. They're powered by AWS. And literally an entire MBA's class is delivered in this highly engaging gaming experience. So really, that learner-centric approach and bringing things to lives, that's really where entrepreneurship, leadership, and data science in fictional worlds where learners gain these critical skills for the 21st century, they continue to practice them through, it's continuous practice. That is the piece when it's interactive, to your point about what kids are learning through some of the social media, it's interactive. And based on where they're finding the most interest, that's when more data, more content is being shifted to them. it's that type of platform that is engaging. So when I'm thinking about even me as a parent of young kids, I'm watching them interact differently, and I'm really pushing them to say, hey, have you thought differently about a career? Have you thought differently about what your interest levels are? That is where a Wharton Interactive and what they're doing specifically is really going to change the longer term future of how students pick careers, students engage with their educators.
Okay, one quick one, and then Ellie, you can finish out and ask anything you want. This one's, as you know, technology companies, Amazon, others have said, you know what, we're going to hire people, and I'm assuming you have a huge staff, Kim, that you're overseeing tons and tons of people here. Maybe a college degree isn't as necessary as it used to be to hire somebody that we need to do this work. The skills-based hiring, the skills-based learning, gets you to a certain point. How do you have this conversation internally at Amazon Web Services, at Amazon as a whole, about whether a degree has value? Doesn't it have as much value? We're going to change our hiring practices. What does a leader need? Do they need to have a degree or not? Can you give us some insight in what to this? Because Amazon and Amazon Web Services obviously is this, juggernaut, can help define that, and universities can respond to it in different ways. And we have been trying to say, hey, look, we still believe there's, value in the humanities, and some schools are cutting English programs along the way, so there's this really funny spot that we're in as we try to respond to business and industry. Can you give us some inside information? What does that sound like at Amazon Web Services?
It's a great question. I have an amazing team. I don't like to think of them as staff because I learned so much from them. We're a big, loving team with focus in this space.
Amazing.
It is. And I would say this, when I look at the diversity that we have specifically in my business, I have former educators, not technologists. I have technologists that have never been educators. We look for diversity of thought to help us solve and get closest to the problem set that our industries are looking for. And again, that goes back to the whole mission of customer obsession. So when I look at someone in the industry that I think could help us go faster with transformation, that's what's attractive to me. And life skills coupled with how technology is moving is so valuable. So I truly look at what is the experience, what's the knowledge, how do we get them up to speed on the technology piece, and how do they help solve for customer challenges quicker. My skills to workforce team, or skills to jobs team, they're actually working with commercial organizations, governments, and we're actually mapping out what are the skills they're looking for and how is it complementary to the roles that are available. And then how do some of the certifications that AWS provides through our skills tools and our online learning, how can they help bridge that gap? So experience is number one, especially in education. Having former educators, I've got some ladies on my team that are or have degrees from the humanities, to your point, or the arts, and what they've been able to bring to the table of how to address and how to bring those curriculums into a technology conversation has been so valuable. So when I look at my team and what I push my team to do is understand the experience and the customer challenges that we have, find people that can help our customers as their number one objective. The skills and the technology will bring them on the journey, but really getting closest to our customer challenges is really what I focus on.
Such a great answer. Thank you for that. Elliot, over to you.
Thank you. Well, just one final question for me to wrap it up with you. I really wanted to address, the business of higher education. You mentioned earlier that you really need to engage students where, when, how, through what device that they're apt to learn on, right? I mean, they're really dictating it. At Fierce Education, we kind of like to say, the student is really your customer to a degree, not just a student for the institution, they're actually your customer base. So with that being said, and AWS really fueling digital transformation inside not just higher education, but obviously other industries as well. Where do you see the business model in colleges and universities going? Do you feel like it needs to change in terms of the tuition, in terms of in-person classroom, hybrid learning? There's so many different moving parts that digital transformation is impacting, because now students have accessibility where they didn't have before. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's a great question. When I think about Amazon or AWS, or really my team's objective, I look and I take it very personally to think that I am hoping to influence employees of Amazon in the future, right? So the kids that are in higher education today, how do I help enable them and equip them to have meaningful roles in the community and even potentially at Amazon? So when I think of the opportunity, yes, the institutions are our customers, but I really hope to build that partnership to say we're building together the workforce of the future, the individuals that are going to do research to solve for world's greatest challenges through the work that they are either doing in the institution on technology or with technology. I'm hoping I'm building the workforce of the future in partnership with the educators. That's truly, for me, that would be the most exciting result. I often say to my team, I may not be here when the early in career get through their entire higher education or master's or PhDs, but I know that they'll have technology accessible to them from kindergarten all the way through, and they will make an impact in the world that will be far surpassed any career I could ever have. That for me is so exciting, and it's such an amazing opportunity to have.
Bingo. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, Kim, you got the word global in your title now. Can you talk a little bit about that? What that means? How you're, are you in global market delivery for institutions across the world? In institutions, I don't mean just higher education. I mean anywhere. Sure. Are you talking about global outcomes? Can you give us a little insight into the global influence?
So absolutely. It's again, when you think about I'll use some examples. When you think about a researcher anywhere in the world, accessing technology to help provide them with results to the research and problem statements that they have, we have found that there is a lot of common opportunities to help bridge those researchers together through technology. So, research would be one. Learning management platforms, best practices that we see across the globe with our ed techs. There are developing countries that are looking for support. And by pulling this global remit together, we are hoping to share the amazing best practices that we have across our businesses, whether it's in Asia Pac, EMEA, or in the Americas. The opportunity is to pull that thought leadership together to allow them to share and go faster. So I have a team that is strictly focused on seeing what those trends are and helping other areas catch up, go fast, or literally leapfrog other opportunities for learning. So it's really more of a best practice sharing, execution, and allowing them to have access. Right now, for me, getting the best of the best out to developing countries is so important, because everyone has the need to learn, and we want to make sure that they have that opportunity to learn through the great work that's been done by our ed techs, our education institutions, who are also looking to impact the globe. So it's fun. It's fun to hear the problem sets, and it's like, hey, did you know this organization can help you do that much faster than starting all over again? Yeah,
it's kind of like you're a conductor, right, of an orchestra, especially if you're getting all of this input of technology, and you go, you know what, this piece of technology can help solve this problem over here in this part of the world. And I asked that question on purpose because when we think global, a lot of times we think physical location. We think, that somebody's getting on a plane and they're going to go here or there. When we think about Amazon Web Services and we think about global and global impact, we're talking about technology delivery, best practices, advancements, innovation. There's so much there. How do you keep it all straight what's coming at you. I mean, you must have just an incredible access to massive amounts of knowledge. How do you decide what helps and what doesn't, knowing all the different technologies?
You know what? It really comes down to the customers, right? So I have an inventory of opportunity, and I have an amazing team that does their best to help continue to bring that to the forward. So I don't think it's necessarily about me keeping it straight. I think it's really about us just listening and then making those connections for them.
I feel like you should go and trademark inventory of opportunity. That's the name of a book or an article somewhere, Kim. That's amazing.
I think I should look that one up.
You should.
But yes.
Well, we like to close out our episodes with the same two questions of every guest. We want to give you the mic for a minute without a leading question. Talk about AWS, any of the work you're doing, speaking engagements, love on your team. I'm just giving you ideas. Anything that comes to your mind about AWS, plug your work for 2 minutes. And then at the end of that, tell us what you think the future of higher education is going to look like.
Let's see. I would start with the future. The future of education is going to continue to evolve. We have to support lifelong learners in a way that is not what we're used to from 50 years ago.
Yes.
So the future of education is personal. It is based on interest, and it's engaging. And that could be done through the amazing organizations that support, and again, the amazing people that dedicate their life to being that sage of information for students of all types. So education is going to continue to evolve. And I think the important part is embrace it and let's help it go faster. For my personal plug for AWS, we are here and focused on solving the biggest challenges that universities have. We're seeing that transformation happen day in and day out, whether it's a financial challenge or it's a reach or it's a refresh on how to reimagine what education is. I encourage anyone who has a problem set to reach out. Let my team help you, because that's what's exciting for us. We learn from our customers and we want to help continue to execute on their behalf.
I love it. Customer obsessed. You said it 2 or 3 different times. You know, it's a lot easier to plan and strategize when you've got a customer you're serving at the center of everything you do. We like to think we do that a little bit in higher education too. And Elliot, you said a student was a customer. And I think more and more higher education is coming around to that fact, although it is not as widely accepted as you might think. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep bringing back first-time guests and first-time guest co-hosts, make these amazing connections on the podcast, have incredible conversation. And Elliot, as I outro you here, how was your first EdUp experience here, Elliot?
It was fantastic. I expected nothing less than excellent. Between you and Kim, it was fantastic.
Fantastic.
See, I even had that one ready. I knew you were going to say that. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest co-host, here he is. He's Elliot Malkowitz. Yeah. I got it right. Editor-in-chief and head of content at Fierce Education. Love the work you're doing at Fierce, Elliot. Keep it up, and thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for your support, Joe.
And our amazing guest, I've just connected. I always do this live. Is there such thing as LinkedIn pressure where I say, Kim, I've just friended you on, connected with you on LinkedIn. Now you have to accept me. I don't know if I should cut that out or not, because if you don't want to accept me, you don't have to, Kim. But I did connect with you on LinkedIn. You're amazing. I'm going to follow your work forever now. Ladies and gentlemen, she's Kim Majera. She's Vice President for Global Education, U.S. State and Local Government at Amazon Web Services. How was your experience today, Kim, and how did you like your time on the podcast?
I loved it, and I did the same thing. So I just actually linked in Elliot as well. So thank you very much for linking in, and I look forward to following each of you. Thank you so much for having me.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some
amazing
news. It's time to work together to solve the puzzle of success in higher education. Ellucian Live returns to New Orleans from March 26th through 29th to help you unlock possibility for your institution. And yes, the EdUp experience will be there recording live. Industry leaders from all across the world are converging to discover new insights, game-changing solutions, and powerful connections, all with the goal of addressing higher ed's greatest opportunities and biggest challenges. You do not want to miss Ellucian Live. Learn more and secure your seat today at elive.ellucian.com. It will be
Amazing.
It's time to
Level up.
The beginning of a new era in higher education begins with you. Order your copy of Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education by Kate Colbert, Dr. Joe Salustio, with contributions by Elvin Freitas. It's higher education's must-read book of 2022. Discover how you can seize the moment to change higher education forever. Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, now available on Amazon. For bulk orders, contact Kate, Joe, or Elvin.